Hey everyone, welcome back to the weekend recap. A weekend of great goals and some thoroughly entertaining matches. I mean, that Betis versus Atletico match, that was a good one. Arsenal versus Watford had some great goals. Great fun all around. And great fun coming your way this week. Champions League this week. So we'll have watch-alongs, daily videos, all the regular coverage, and of course, another video later on in the week for you as well. And finally, guys, I'm so sorry to anyone who was dragged into or even had to witness that tragedy down in Mexico. May the families of those affected find the answers and the peace that they deserve from that horrific situation. Many questions to be asked of stadium security, of the police. I mean, the fact that weapons were allegedly present, I mean, this is just thuggery, and it has no place in culture, let alone football, really. Seeing families trying to flee the scene with their kids, dads trying to protect their sons and getting kicked on the ground just because they're wearing the wrong kit, people crying outside saying that their friends were killed. It's truly dark stuff at a time where things like football are supposed to be an outlet from the darkness. So I'm so sorry to anyone who was directly affected by that, injured or lost someone they know. May they rest in peace. All right, guys, it's becoming an unfortunate weekly tradition to start the weekend recap off on such a sad note, but I mean, we got to address these things, right? So let's move on to the football, actual football, not stuff from the crowd, which should never be accompanied with violence like that. West Ham fought hard against Liverpool, a bit of an out of sorts Liverpool in some ways, but ultimately couldn't find an equalizer, though Lanzini will be having nightmares about that miss from around the 70th minute mark, unable to take advantage of, again, a Liverpool side that looked a little bit out of sorts in defense, though to be fair, Mo Salah had a match to forget as well. No matter to Liverpool though, as getting a win against a very difficult West Ham side ensured that the pressure was on Manchester City going into their match against Man United this weekend, which we'll get to in a bit. Another United, Leeds United, played their first match under new manager Jesse Marsch against Leicester. And while they looked pretty decent and overall improved from how they had been performing under Bielsa, a mistake at the back led to a 1-0 loss. Hey, better than leaking what was their average of 2.3 goals per game coming into this, but they still have some issues for the new manager to address, both in converting chances, the Bamford hole is huge up front, and keeping that same concentration defensively throughout the full 90. Aston Villa looked very sharp against a fellow sharp side, Southampton. Gerrard's villains smacked them up 4-0 at Villa Park as Ollie Watkins, whom I had mentioned, I was surprised that he had only 6 Premier League goals last weekend. Well, he built off of that with a goal in just the 9th minute. Well, Danny Ings put in a man of the match performance, 2 assists as he set up Watkins and Coutinho, and a goal for himself as well. He deserved it. Saints had a decent second half, but they only started to really look dangerous once they were 4-0 down. So, hey man, too little, too late there. Speaking of improved second half performances, you could say the same for Chelsea, as they played away at the Turf Moor to try to hand them their second consecutive loss, Burnley that is, and they delivered. I mean, Chelsea looked poor in that first half, completely disjointed in the attack, but on the other side of halftime, they lay the smackdown on them, with Kai Havertz once again justifying the start with a brace. He's coming into his own now, isn't he? Reece James and Christian Pulisic got the other goals for Chelsea, a gift for Pulisic, but overall his performance was great, and a commanding 4-0 victory for Tuchel's men. Newcastle United are on quite the run of form. They have been completely transformed under Eddie Howe. Playing at home against Brighton, 2 early goals gave them the win. Great work from Ryan Fraser, whom you'll remember Howe worked with at Bournemouth, as he scored on the rebound following a stunning counterattack from Newcastle, then setting up Fabian Schär at the near post from a free kick. Perfect header from Schär, beating the keeper out in the near post there. And while Brighton pulled one back, 2-1 Newcastle and unbeaten in 8 matches now. One of the viral moments of the weekend came from Norwich hosting Brentford, in which Brandon Williams got tangled up with a player, turns out it was Christian Eriksen, went for the shove, then hugged him when he realized who it was. Great stuff. Unfortunately for Norwich, though, they were slapped 3-1 at home thanks to 2 penalties from Ivan Toney to round out his hat trick. That first goal being a nice flicked header from Ayer at the near post, and then Toney was there at the back post to tuck it in early on. Late goal from Pukki was the consolation or the participation medal for Norwich, who are winless in 5 and on a 4-match losing skid at the moment. Another bottom of the table team, Watford, faced off against Arsenal, and this game had a ton of quality, as I said in the intro, when it came to goals, at least. My goodness, each goal from each side was just dripping in class. Arsenal's third, Martinelli's, was my favorite of the lot though. And I know people will scream at me for not picking Cucho Hernandez's goal, which was incredible skill, yes, But I loved Arsenal's team goal for the third. The flicked pass from Odegaard to Lacazette, and he put it on an absolute plate for Martinelli, who finished into the top corner. I mean, it was training ground stuff. Great goals, but also, Arsenal were their own worst enemies at times, weren't they? We can absolutely give Watford credit for their pressing, but so many misplaced passes at the back, whether it was Ramsdale with his failed clearances, Xhaka, Cedric, something Arsenal need to sort out. But hey, a 3-2 win all the same. And finally, when United and City face off, there's always hope that it will be an exciting matchup, especially when you look at United's record at the Etihad. Despite their struggles in recent years, of course, they did well against City, but not this year. It took City just 5 minutes to open the scoring, a nice combination between Grealish and Bernardo down that left side, and the Portuguese cut the ball back nicely to De Bruyne to convert. Then De Bruyne got a second. Comedy of errors at the back for United, as they just couldn't get a grip back there. The dummy from Maguire, that was hilarious, and eventually De Bruyne tucked it in. There was a glimmer of hope when United worked the ball to Sancho on the counter, and stepping inside, he sniped that bottom corner. Later, it looked like a well-worked United attack would come with the same sort of outcome, as Sancho, ready to curl it on his right again, absolutely skied it. And in the second half, United generated nothing going forward. 0.00 XG, and that's a real stat for the second half. While Mahrez had a deflected strike skip past De Gea for 3-1, and he got another later on to make it 4. United just looking so vulnerable at the back and lacking so much potency in the attack. Honestly, United need to just reset club at this point. There was a point where the possession stats for the last 15 minutes or so had read 92% City, 8% United. I mean, it must have been very, very difficult to watch if you're a United supporter. So with Man City winning, they ensure their 6-point lead is intact as Liverpool still have a game in hand. Arsenal's win put them in the top 4, and they certainly have a few games in hand. These boys need to play these games, don't they? Like Chelsea, Real Madrid were at risk of having a horrid first half prior to Eduardo Camavinga's banger from 1 million yards out. The young Frenchman hadn't scored since his debut for Real Madrid, so that was definitely a much needed goal for him and his confidence in what was a solid performance from the 19-year-old. After his goal, Luka Modric put Real ahead with an absolute stunner from the edge of the box on his weak foot, by the way. 2-1 at the half. After Real Sociedad had taken the lead just 10 minutes in from the spot, Mikel Oyarzabal converting. In the second half, Vinicius won a penalty of which Benzema converted, and Marco Asensio scored again with basically his first touch of the game. 4-1, commanding victory after a shaky start, and what a difference a Benz makes. Sevilla failed to put pressure on Real prior to this weekend as they played on Friday against Deportivo Alavés, and they failed to get a victory. Suddenly, Alavés are becoming a bit sterner of an opponent. They aren't rolling over for anyone anymore. Villarreal lost to Osasuna. I was going to call this a surprise, and it is in some respects, as Villarreal have been in decent form of late, but Osasuna, you'll remember they started the season extremely strong, and while they have tailed off quite a bit and settled into their more realistic position mid-table, there's still a difficult proposition, as Unai Emery learned. Ximi Avila with what was the winner in the 63rd minute for Osasuna, 1-0 there. Valencia did well to build on their win over Mallorca last weekend with an even more convincing victory up against Granada at the Mestalla, 3-1 there, as Carlos Soler dominated this match. After getting 2 assists, when Maxi Gomez won a penalty, Soler took the responsibility and slotted it to restore Valencia's 2-goal lead. The others were finished off by Maxi Gomez himself and Gonzalo Guedes. Great start to the season for Guedes, by the way. 10 goals and 5 assists in La Liga. Start to the season. I mean, we're past halfway. Rayo Vallecano continued to slip. Another team that started so well this season. They were blanked 2-0 away to Cadiz this weekend. No wins in La Liga since December 18th for Vallecano. And in general, across all competitions, they have 6 losses and a draw in their last 7. Barcelona played away to Elche and they were made to work, weren't they? After Fidel had put Elche in the lead on the stroke of halftime, it took Barca just 15 minutes to get their equalizer. A weird one for sure. Good run and cross from Dembele, and a mishit from Jordi Alba fell very fortunately to Ferran Torres to tuck it away. Later on, they took the lead thanks to a Memphis penalty. A bit of a snatch and grab for Barcelona considering their recent form in comparison to their recent form, but 3 points all the same. Shout out Mallorca and Celta Vigo for their classic from the weekend. I only caught the highlights, but that match looked incredible. Red cards, a fight back from Celta. I mean, it was a chef kiss game. And Atletico Madrid versus Real Betis was the match I was looking forward to the most this weekend in Spain. And my goodness, Atleti They scored after just 74 seconds from a counter-attack of which Angel Correa squared to João Felix for the tap-in. Great start, and Betis were shaken for about the first half hour or so of this one. In fact, Betis were galvanized after Atleti failed to score from a similar situation, this situation here. Carrasco with a pass that was right between Felix and Loli. A wasted opportunity for you is an opportunity for your opponents, and Betis nearly punished them shortly after. Inexplicably, the cross was met by nobody and deflected up and over the Atletico goal from 2 yards out, so lucky for Atletico there. And from there, Atleti had to face a barrage, but they transitioned quickly to attack through Griezmann, João Felix, and Carrasco. Oh, and right before the half, Jan Oblak made a fantastic save on Borja Iglesias, but he couldn't stop Christian Teo's strike from outside of the box. Mistake from Herrera. Teo hits it first time past Oblak. Stunning strike, curled right around Oblak and in. Not much he could do there. I've been hard on him when justified, but there was nothing he could have done about that. But hey, Atletico continued on in the second half with a bit of a tactical change and going to the 3-5-2 again, and it absolutely paid off. João Felix got the second for his brace, but all the credit has to go to two people, in my opinion. One, Philippe for the massive sliding tackle that actually launched the counter, and two, Llorente for the inch-perfect run and crossed into the box. That's 4 goals in his last 4 matches for João Felix now, by the way, as he starts to find some form, which is great to see. And finally, Griezmann with a cutback to Lamar to make it 3-1. Huge result for Atleti as they jump over Betis in the standings, back in the top 4 where they belong, just behind FC Barcelona. Real now have an 8-point lead over Sevilla, by the way. After 4 matches without scoring a single goal, Inter dropped 5 on Salernitana in their 5-0 victory, a hat-trick from Lautaro, and yes, the result is obviously important to get that win. But if this proves to be a turning point for him, Lautaro, this season, and he can continue on with a semblance of the kind of finishing he was exhibiting against Salernitana, then this will change that recent drought that Inter have experienced. Because while I do think he is a bit overrated in some respects, as he goes missing way too often, I do recognize how important he is to this attack when on song. Not only in the finishing department, where he has 14 goals now in Serie A, but in the work he does off the ball as well. Also, shout out Barella, who got 2 assists, and Robin Gosens coming on the pitch and setting up Dzeko. That will have Interisti very excited by that prospect. Another Roma match, another match in which there are red cards at the end. Mkhitaryan's was quite funny with that intentional handball while he was laying on the ground, and well, AS Roma had their backs to the wall at that moment. Atalanta were surging at the time, and Roma were defending their 1-goal lead from who else but Tammy Abraham's first half goal. Zaniolo and Abraham linking up in a breathtaking counter. Zaniolo took it down and laid off to Abraham, who split the Atalanta defenders and just snuck it under Musso. 1-0 win for Roma, who haven't lost in 2 months now, since January 9th, 8 matches ago. They're in their best spell of form since the season began. Their rivals Lazio got a convincing victory away to Cagliari, beating them 3-0 with a goal and an assist from Felipe Anderson. Luis Alberto and Immobile adding the others as Lazio bounced back from that late loss to Napoli last weekend. Quite a few draws this weekend, but Sassuolo piled on more uncertainty as to whether Venezia and their sexy kits will be in Serie A next season. Sassuolo beat up on them, winning 4-1 away, with 3 of their goals coming from penalties. That's a lot of penalties for Sassuolo. 3 in 1 match. Fiorentina was another one of the sides that drew this weekend, them against Hellas Verona, but I bring it up as Piatek has been in fantastic form for them lately. 5 goals in his last 6 matches for La Viola. That's pretty good for the Polish striker, who kind of went missing the last couple of years. Juventus got a 1-0 victory over Spezia as a failed clearance saw Vlahovic, Locatelli, and Morata combined for the eventual winner. A bit lucky at times at Spezia, as Spezia came really close to an equalizer a few times in that second half, but it was a classic Allegri game. 1-0, sit back and defend, and make everyone's eyes feel like sawdust watching these guys play. Napoli versus Milan. What a great second half that was, as it was really stretched at times with AC Milan looking to hurt Napoli on the counter, but their goal came from the second ball from a set piece. Which was a driven pass through the box from Calabria, and it was guided past Ospina by Giroud. Such a poacher's goal from the Frenchman, who unfortunately went off injured later in the game. Some shouts for a penalty for a tackle on Osimhen late, but overall I think it's safe to say Milan deserved the win. Oh, by the way, Salamakis at the end really should have made it too. That could have come back to bite AC Milan, but Thankfully for them, it did not. Anyway, Milan take their turn at the top now as the Serie A title race is just flying along with a revolving door of leaders taking a turn at the top. Inter, however, still have that match in hand. And with that win, by the way, Juve jump up to 4th. With their form and the other teams constantly dropping points, they've really allowed Juve to catch up quite a bit. Now just 7 points off the top, 4 behind Napoli. First off, in Germany, Mainz had a big COVID outbreak, and so their match against Borussia Dortmund was postponed. I mean, serves Dortmund well, probably, as they could use some time to collect themselves. I reckon a little extra rest is always appreciated at this point in the season. But otherwise, we saw Bayern Munich drawing with Bayern Leverkusen in the highlight fixture of the weekend in Germany, in which an early goal from Niklas Süle, the Dortmund-bound Niklas Süle, was pulled back by an own goal from Thomas Müller, and the match ended in a draw. Eintracht Frankfurt took their turn beating down on Hertha Berlin, putting 4 past them in a 4-1 victory. It's bad for Hertha. RB Leipzig required a late goal from Angelino in order to salvage a draw at home against SC Freiburg. Man, shout out Christian Streich. And Freiburg is such a difficult team to play against, man. Typically at home, prior to them changing stadiums at least, they were incredibly difficult to play against there. But just in general, man, Freiburg doesn't give it any easy matches up. Tied for the best defense in the Bundesliga, and this is all under a manager that has been there since 2011. At least as the senior manager. Upon retiring in 94 or 95, he took over the 19s, the U19s, and then eventually took over the senior side in 2011. Crazy. VfL Wolfsburg got another positive result. They lost just once in their last 5 matches now, which for them is massive given the rocky season they've had. Playing at home against Union Berlin, they won 1-0 as Taiwo Iwoniwi scored a goal at the wrong end of the pitch. Driven corner that was just high enough for him to get enough contact on it, but not controlled contact, and it went into his own goal. Unfortunate one for him, as Union absolutely deserved to get anything out of this match, but end up losing thanks to an own goal. Unfortunate indeed. Borussia Mönchengladbach are drifting closer and closer to the drop zone, aren't they? I mean, one thing they have going for them is that the teams below them in the actual relegation zone and relegation playoff spots, I should say, are not likely to do any better than Gladbach. Oh wait, Stuttgart are one of those relegation sides. Yet another weekend for Gladbach, yet another poor result for them as they fell 3-2 to VfB Stuttgart. What makes it worse, they blew a 2-0 lead. After Playa and Thuram put them ahead, a goal from Endo gave Stuttgart hope before the halftime break. Then Fürich got them back on level terms shortly after halftime. In the 83rd, the outgoing Sasha Kaladzic got what was the winner for Stuttgart, 3-2 there. And finally, Hoffenheim got the win over Köln to shoot them up into 4th as we check the scores and standings here. Bayern's lead is at 9 points for now, as you'll remember Dortmund didn't play. Leverkusen in the 3rd, Hoffenheim in 4th, as I just said. Okay, guys, that's all for this one. Again, we'll have plenty of Champions League coverage this week, so be on the lookout for watch-alongs and daily videos Wednesday through Friday. Beyond that, be well, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.